Welcome to Movie News Guys. I'm Rich.
I'm Andy.
And today we're going to be talking about It, because if you look on anywhere on YouTube right now, everyone's talking about It, and we do mean Stephen King's It, because, and hopefully you guys know what I'm talking about, Pennywise the Clown and all that. It's everywhere. Everyone's talking about it. It's a huge success. It made over $123 million on its opening weekend on a $35 million budget. Huge success. We've talked about it previously, but now I've seen It. And I gotta tell you guys, it was one of the best horror experiences I've had in at least a couple decades. Andy, you've already talked about it, but can you just reconfirm how much you liked it?
I liked it a lot.
Okay. Well, today, I won't go into terrible details with you guys since we already basically gave our opinions, even though I hadn't seen it yet, but I loved it. I gave it a 5 out of 5. And yeah, I gave it a 5 out of 5. But we're going to be talking mostly about who should play the adult versions of the Losers Club in part 2, chapter 2 of it, that will come out in 2019. Now, all of the kids were asked who they thought should play themselves in the sequel. So we're going to go through that list right now. So first, we're going to start with Richie, who is, of course, played by Finn Wolfhard from Stranger Things. He said that he would like to be played by Bill Hader in the sequel. Interesting choice. And then, of course, we have Mike Hanlon, who is played by Chosen Jacobs, and he thinks that Chadwick Boseman, who is also better known as Black Panther, and he was also the star of the movie 42. I think that's a pretty good choice, too, there. We got Ben, played by Jeremy Ray Taylor, and he thinks that Chris Pratt would be good. I also think that's a good choice. Bill was played by Jaden Lieberher, and he thinks that Christian Bale would be a good adult version of him. That's a pretty interesting choice. Stan, played by Wyatt Olaf, he thinks that Joseph Gordon-Levitt would be a good version of him, and I think that actually if you put the curly hair on Joseph Gordon-Levitt, I think they actually look a lot like each other. And then lastly, we got Beverly March, and that's played by Sophia Lillis, and she thinks that Jessica Chastain would be a good adult Beverly. So, Andy, let me tell you, what do you think about these choices?
Yeah, just when you look at the pictures side by side, it's like, wow, that's definitely by looks. But even the actors, their experience and what I've seen them in before, they could totally pull it off.
Yeah, I saw another picture of Bill Hader where he's in this other movie where he had longer hair and big glasses like that, and he looked just like the kid, who played Richie, Finn.
Or Dwight Schrute.
Yeah, and I thought that was pretty good. I came into this recording thinking that I was going to give a lot of my own opinions on who should be playing these characters, and I really only have one strong opinion that differs from these kids, and that is Beverly. Jessica Chastain is a great actress, and I think that in the studio, as far as I know, is actually in talks with her for actually playing this part. But I have thought since started watching the first movie that Amy Adams would be the best choice for Beverly. And I still think that because Amy Adams kind of has this vulnerability to her acting, and she's very honest, and she, in my opinion, looks a lot more like Sophia Lillis than Jessica Chastain. And I feel like she could give off that vulnerability, because anybody who has read the book or seen the miniseries knows that Beverly's not okay after this story. She gets with an abusive boyfriend, and she kind of goes down the same road that she went as a kid, and she's got to have a lot of vulnerability to her. I mean, obviously she has to be a strong character too, because she does get out of that situation. But I think that Jessica Chastain has kind of been typecast a little bit as this strong female lead, which is good, but I feel like Amy Adams would be better for this character. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I think you said it all.
Because, Jessica Chastain, Zero Dark 30, and she was also the commander in The Martian. She's great at what she does. I just think that unless this would be a challenge for her, as far as I've seen her acting, to play someone a little bit more vulnerable. I think it would be a mistake to go full Jessica Chastain and have Beverly now be this super strong, like at least not at first. I think that Amy Adams would be better. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. What do you think, Andy?
No, I think you've said everything that I was thinking. That sort of softer look that she has. She's not as Amy Adams isn't as badass already as a look. She doesn't have those sharp edges present. So no, that would be my pick for now. But you never know until you see these things on the screen, right, and ready to go. It's really, I know they were trying to keep it more unknowns, or they didn't want to pay for big talent. So Amy Adams is, especially after The Arrival, not to be confused with the 90s Arrival,
Yeah.
She did really, really well in that, and she kind of showed that sort of vulnerability, but she had it where it counted, especially toward the end of that. If you haven't seen it, it's probably one of her best performances since ever.
Yeah, I definitely think that. I mean, I was like, oh, for sure they got to choose Amy Adams, but yeah, Amy Adams might be too expensive. I can't imagine that Jessica Chastain would be that much less expensive to get, but that's who they're going for right now. And I guess, well, since the It became a hit, they probably have a bigger budget now and can afford a little bit of bigger cast. But yeah, and as far as the other cast members go, I think they all chose pretty good. My initial reaction for Mike was that Idris Elba would be good, and I think that I was being a little bit biased because he was already in a Stephen King movie this year, The Dark Tower, which was not good, was not well received, and I thought maybe if he came into the second part of It as Mike, he could redeem himself a little bit. It's like, all right, now he's doing a good Stephen King adaptation, but, Chadwick Boseman is actually perfect for Mike.
Yeah, I've heard that they're actually changing his character even more.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently in the book, even in the miniseries, he's the one whose dad sort of kept the old pictures, and he was the one researching everything that happened in the past. And from what I read, and I don't know if this is real or not, so, do your fact checking before you believe me, but at least this is what I've heard so far, is that they're changing his character to, how in the original he stayed behind and became like the librarian, I think.
Yeah, he was the librarian.
Now they're making him sort of a drug addict recovering because he needed to take the drugs for, I can't remember if it was to forget or to keep remembering, because I know as you get older you forget about it. I think he was trying to remember so that when the time came he could do that. So he's recovering from drugs. Kind of an interesting choice for them to make. I'm sure they've got a reason if they decide to go with that. I'm not too happy about that if that's the case. I feel like it's a waste of a character.
It's a little bit of an interesting change up. Even in the first movie, it really seemed like Ben was the one that was going in the library and doing the research and showing the kids the town's history and everything, where it was Mike in the original story that had done all that. So they were already kind of mixing the characters up a little bit. I don't understand 100% the motivations for that change, if that change is real, but I'm sure that however it works out, it's for the betterment of making a solid movie. I mean, at this point, having seen the first one, I trust the choices that the director and the writing team are making.
Yeah, if I had to pick maybe just by looks and acting chops too, I might have gone instead of Chadwick Boseman with John Boyega.
Oh, yeah. He's from Force Awakens.
Yeah, he's awesome. I remember seeing just his reactions to him getting cast in the Star Wars movie, and he just seems like a really cool guy too. I'm not that familiar with Chadwick Boseman other than from Civil War.
Yeah.
And I know he's been in some other movies that I have yet to see, but
you never saw 42?
I never got. I'm gonna get on that soon. Before it, I think it's on HBO right now for a little bit longer.
But I agree that John Boyega looks more like him, more like the kid. But I think that he's a little young. Everybody has to be about 42.
Yeah, and Idris Elba, he's kind of old too compared to the rest of this cast.
Oh yeah, he's about 10 years too old to play the character. So Chadwick Boseman is pretty good.
Yeah, and as for Ben, Chris Pratt that's it. It's ruined in my brain now for Chris Pratt because I think that would be perfect. And it's kind of, him, I remember, he used to be chubby, I guess if you call that chubby, but, he used to not be ripped like he is now. And it's kind of in the miniseries, wasn't it John Ritter?
Yeah.
I could totally see that going, a little sense of humor. Now he's good looking and...
John Ritter had that little bit of a beard. He had the cowboy vest on and everything. I definitely can see... Chris Pratt doing that same sort of thing if that's where they're going. And yeah, he used to be pudgier, and I think he'd basically be playing himself, except with a horrible clown in his childhood.
Yeah, and what's that movie with that one girl who wears the shirt in it?
That movie with the one girl that wears the shirt in it.
No, the space movie that they were in. I'm totally blanking on that.
That was I know exactly what you're talking about, but I can't remember it for the life of me.
Oh, right.
Passengers, right?
Passengers. Yes. Now that movie was awesome because not only did it have a sense of humor, but he definitely had that serious side of him when things went bad. You could see it in his face. And I think even though I'm used to seeing a lot of comedies, or at least him being a little bit goofy, I think he's got what it takes to do some serious stuff, especially when it comes to a clown trying to eat him.
Like, okay, for the audition, we're gonna have a giant clown try to eat you. Go. Let's see what you can do. Making me laugh. And for okay, so then what do you think about Christian Bale?
You know, Bill was the hardest one for me to think of who would play them, and Christian Bale, I guess.
I mean, Christian Bale does an adequate job of being leading man. Here's the thing about me and Christian Bale. I used to love Christian Bale. Like American Psycho, perfect. You know, Newsies, perfect. Empire of the Sun, perfect. We're going deep cuts here, way back. But even like most of the movies that he's done around that were pretty good. As a lot of people know, I'm not the biggest fan of his performance in the Dark Knight trilogy. I thought he was pretty one-tone. The whole thing, I'm Bruce Wayne. Or then he was like, I'm Bruce Wayne. I don't know. Like, I guess he was two-tone. But he didn't really, like, I mean, he's not what we remember from those movies. We remember, Heath Ledger for the most part. But I think that this could be an opportunity for him to do a smaller movie and really knock a great performance, especially a traumatized person. I think that would be good for him. He's not my first choice for this role, though. I think that Patrick Wilson, better known for, the horror movies that he does, those horror movies that I can't think of right now.
That's what I want. The Insidious movies. No.
Insidious. There we go.
Yeah, he's awesome. Actually, that's
1 and 2.
That's a good pick. I would definitely choose him over Christian Bale.
Yeah. Oh, and also, what's the other one he does where it's like him and his wife are
The Conjuring.
The Conjuring. God, my memory is dead tonight. Yeah, Insidious and Conjuring. Patrick Wilson knows horror. He's the best at it, and he also looks so much like the kid that plays Bill in this movie that at least I feel like he could do his hair like the kid, and he looks more like the kid than Christian Bale. And I think that if for some reason Warner Brothers was like, "Hey Richie, what do you think?" I would tell them it's got to be Patrick Wilson. Patrick Wilson or nothing.
He's expensive, I'm sure.
He was also in Watchmen, and that's cool too. All right, now let's move on to Stanley.
Yeah, Jason Gordon-Levitt. They have a similar look, but I feel like almost, his character in this version of it was definitely a little bit whinier.
Yeah.
So almost anybody could do that. I didn't feel like there was enough of the younger kid to have me latch on to be like, oh, this is the perfect adult to play him. So I think Joseph Gordon-Levitt's a good pick, but he just feels too young to me to be able to fit the part.
He looks young, but he is getting older. I think that this list, or at least the kid that the Wyatt who chose him, I think just basically because he thinks he looks like him, and I think he could be made to look like him. I'm not going to give them too much crap for whoever they pick as Stanley, because ultimately it's not that important who plays Stanley, because, well, no spoilers, but let's just say that you don't need like AAA casting for 5 minutes of screen time. That's all I'm gonna say.
Right.
So it doesn't really matter that much. All right, and then we've already talked about Beverly to death. So Andy, do you have any other thoughts on the cast of it?
I think that they need to cast them right away, so that way you can all know instead of speculate, because I'm really excited for this next movie. And from what I hear, they're getting things started pretty quick, so hopefully within the next couple of years they'll have a movie for us to watch. And all I know is this movie is going to be really hard to top this first half, and I hope they, unlike the miniseries where the second half was good until the very end, I hope they really stick the landing.
You've got to, like even the ending of the book is really cool, but they really kind of fell apart at the end of the miniseries. Yeah, but it's because if you know the book, you know how crazy that whole origin story gets, and like the cosmic being of it all and everything. Like, it's going to be really tough. I know that they're probably going to ground it much more in reality somehow, but all I know is that it'll be upsetting to me if they can't figure out a great way to end that movie. But I have faith that they'll figure it out.
Yeah, Stephen King, even in his novels, he's not a very strong ender of books. No. He'll write, 2,000 pages and he'll be like, I'm done with this one.
Yeah.
And he'll wrap it up. So, and, it could be there. So if they were to maybe bring some more of that, the mythology that maybe occurred after the books were written and what people have thought of and the things that they came up with to sort of make everything fit, maybe they'll use some of that as reference for the ending of this one.
Yeah. All right, guys. What did you think of it? Who do you think should play the adult versions in part 2? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to the Movie News Guys. We'll see you later. I'm Rich.
I'm Andy.
Brr.